So, questions, please. There must be a lot of questions after those two sessions. One straight away. Thank you very much. And can you please give your name and affiliation? Thank you.
We'll talk about BIM specialist courses. But surely what we need is for the whole industry, all our future professionals, to be BIM aware in terms of be it from the architectural, the engineering, or from the project management, or from the QS perspective. If we're to promote truly collaborative BIM in the industry, then we need to encourage collaborative education. Now, I have some involvement with universities. I have yet to see a school where architects, engineers, QSs, project managers are taught at some point through their course together, to work together. These professions are still taught in silos, so we're sort of educating these people with a silo mentality before they go out into the industry. This is something that the validating bodies of education, the professional institutions, the client bodies, public and private, need to address. What are your thoughts on that?
I imagine you'd like to start with that one, and Jeremy, I guess you're rushing to...
I think you more or less answered the question in your answer, in the sense that with my professional engineering institution hat on and professional registration being ultimately the right way to go. So for the qualification to practice, ultimately it will require these particular capabilities to be built into the capabilities that the engineer or the architect or whatever needs to have. And that will then govern, if you like, the recruitment process and so on, development process within the organisations that employ those people. So I think continuing professional development, the process that currently is sort of UK spec-like thing that develops people through with the right required evidence of capability to lead towards professional qualification, that would then drive and pull on the training bodies and the universities to provide the education that's needed in the courses that would be accredited by the professional institutions.
Yeah, my comment to that would be that it's quite challenging to how to really start educating people so that they collaborate. We did one course in Salford University where we tried to do that on the undergrad level, the collaboration. And the first challenge there is that when you make a team of students, and if somebody is not delivering, the others are suffering that, like in the real world. But the problem is that how can you kind of, when you give the marks, can you give to the engineer bad mark because the architect didn't deliver the material in time? And that's quite challenging. So we have to somehow simulate the collaboration without the negative effects of really kind of if somebody is missing his or her tasks. Then on the BIM education and educating BIM specialists, the best solution is that you really have a multidisciplinary education so that you have the different professions. Again, in Salford we were quite successful because the master's program in BIM in there is in the School of Built Environment. In Liverpool it seems that because my program is now inside the traditional School of Architecture, engineers are not so eager to come there, because we have these silos very strongly inbuilt. So I think that we should really kind of go to the School of Built Environment type of model much more.
May I comment? In Norway, we have done at a university in Narvik, not working in BIM, but they wanted to actually promote innovation in health care. So they mixed engineer and nurses. And it actually became a really good innovation program, and actually it became a lot of children also out of that program. But it works to combine the cross-disciplinaries in the same student program. I think that's a very good way to go.
Yeah. What I was going to add to that is, you said in your presentation, Arto, that you thought one of the very most important things to teach was for the disciplines to understand what each other did and what each other needed at each stage. And that really rang true with me. I don't think it's just an education problem. It reminds me almost exactly of an experience I had a very long time ago in one of Mervyn's workshops, where I suggested, as the sort of SME representative there, that people working in the industry needed to know more about what each other did and when they needed information. And the response from from a few people in the room was that I was naive to say that, and it was because I hadn't worked for a big company and they did all understand. I mean, I think, it's always very easy, because there are so many parties involved in making this a success, it's very easy to look at other people's faults, whether that's the education or whether it's the quantity surveyor. Obviously that's an easy target. But I think that we'll never get past this this issue of making it work until people are more focused on what each other do and less focused on what they do. And at the moment, I think still, and perhaps it's because our workflows haven't quite caught up with the speed that we're expected to deliver projects. People can, the pace of projects these days can sort of turn you in on yourself, and you very quickly then lose the ability to provide good data because you're thinking just about providing something.
So actually, I'll throw a thought into this as well. Having had a couple of years out in my career in a university and also working very closely with universities, the universities do try really hard to engage with industry. And actually, we might all like to think we engage with universities, but they really struggle to get quality engagement. They'll set up industry user groups for some of their degree programs. So I think actually part of the solution's in the hands of the industry to make these thoughts really loud and clear, not only to the universities to help them, but also to the professional institutions that we're all members of. Right, another question, please. So.
Dave Sibbett, I'm Prof. We are BIM consultants, so my comment is to go with Klashka here. On the comment of opening your wallet, yes, it's something that I think a lot of people in the industry are very clearly aware of, that you can get rolled over if you go out there and just say, I want level 2 BIM. But that is one of the problems of the industry, in that people seem to think that everybody has to do level 2 BIM in the exact same way. What we seem to see, what we see a lot of, is that people don't take enough cognizance of the fact that, let's say, for example, a trades side of the industry, an electrician does not need to operate a level 2 BIM design studio. He needs different tools. But what I'm not seeing is there are not enough people helping the industry find out other tools to help people inject into the BIM process. And that's a bit of a call to whether it's to industry as a large SME level, it's got to be industry training. How do you get more tools in to help people at the field level to actually inject information at the site level, where, as you were saying, in Norway, where you're holding the tablet and you actually want to actually use there and then rather than go back into the office. It's just a general observation. It shouldn't be level 2 for everybody thinking it's design, it's on a computer. There are different tools. And that's, I just want to throw that as a...
Would anybody like to?
I completely agree with you. I mean, I think it's that's one of the biggest issues that that SMEs have, but it's an issue that I think BIM is starting to get quite well formed between the consultant team and the main contractor. But outside that sphere, it's it's still sort of the Wild West, and we're starting to get some great projects coming online. You've got Bid for Free with they're building a platform off 3D Repo, which is basically about getting data to specialist subcontractors and suppliers, letting them interrogate models without having model software. I mean, to me, it seems obvious. So I always used to make the point that the idea that you expect a quantity surveyor, I'll say something nice about them now, to buy a piece of BIM design software, which they were perhaps going to use 1% of to try and take the, and it wasn't really made for doing quantity takeoffs, even though they all can sort of do it. It's daft, and that's sort of trying to force people down routes, as opposed to if you want a successful working relationship, both parties or everybody who's going to rely on the data needs to understand what's important that that party is producing, how they produce it, and how they can, what information is important that comes from it. And it just, in a sense, goes back to our previous question. Don't make people do things that aren't that aren't relevant, that don't help them help you.
I want to comment again back. In Norway, we don't have educational programs for the constructions industry using the same methods that we have developed in the oil and gas industry. So we also have to learn from the oil and gas industry. But what they have done in the oil and gas industry is they work with these simulators. On the west coast, they have huge simulators on the university sites. And you can prepare working cases, actually to have this cross-disciplinary attention from the architects, the constructors, planning and everything. So if you organize that case a little bit in advance and establish this simulator environment to simulate a practical case, help you to do that. It has been very useful in Norway, and especially when it comes to SAR and operation on online and offshore. And it's about collaboration as well. So I think that's a great way to go, and among the universities it's very popular because those guys also get a lot of attention from the industry because they're sponsored by the industry. So they are there with lectures and supporting PhDs and really are working closely with the university.
It's just going into universities is a great thing. I mean,
Yeah,
since I changed jobs from running my own practice, we all know there's a real skills shortage at the moment. But just going and engaging with our local tech college, we've got two near where I work in Havant. It's great because you go in, you show the students something that they think's really cool. And you immediately start to identify the people that you like who are engaged. It's you don't need to know that they can use a software package. You know you're going to be able to work with them. So and students just soak it up. I don't think the tutors soak it up as well. It's I'm amazed that there isn't more industry engagement, but I believe it.
Hello, Richard James, architect and consultant for Atlas. There seems to be a lot of consultants, software vendors and academics in the room today. I'd be very interested to know how many clients and asset managers are represented here, because by way of show of hands if possible, because they are the ultimate beneficiaries of this process and managing the asset, and they don't seem to be represented very well.
So how many clients do we have in the room today?
And what sort of vehicles are being used at the moment to channel or used as a conduit to channel their understanding of BIM and the process, because that's where we need to be, the sharp end of the spear.
Who would like to pick that comment?
I guess I put my hand in the air because we do everything across the built environment as opposed to being a public sector department. We are lifting and shifting and adopting the way we work into those environments is the answer. We're taking the experiences we're having in other parts of the business where we've been engaged and creating an approach that has an integrated operating model across our entire life cycle. We almost can't wait for others to sort their own world out. So I guess coming back to some of the other questions, we are engaging with industry. We are working on approaches from an apprenticeship perspective to cover that skills gap and take that opportunity forward. We are at the bequest in terms of that next generation around our education sector. I would point to Finland in the fact that 16, 17 years ago, they started coding in schools, and we've only just started doing that. We've been teaching people Microsoft Office for 25 years. So there is a lag here, but we are trying to lift and shift and adopt those operating procedures across our business. That's for sure. And we're looking to help anyone that wants to engage in that way.
But I think the training for the government procurers, who are surely our clients, has been done formally. And one hopes that by the rollout of best practice and due diligence, that legal advisors, if you like, to big corporations will say, well, hang on, shouldn't you be doing this? Government's procuring against BIM Level 2. Shouldn't you, Deutsche Bank, or whatever other client it might be doing something similar? And I think there is a pull then for us to address actually client training, which is a different sort of training and awareness thing. I think there's still a gap there, personally, as a building smart person.
So I'll quickly put a BRE hat on rather than an independent chair hat, because I mean, BRE tries to sit outside the supply chain so that all bits of it and the client side will want to come here and find things out. And we are being increasingly contacted by private sector clients saying, help, we need to know more about BIM. I was with one, actually with Paul just last Friday, and they engaged with us simply because their supply chain had been saying to them, you're our only customer that's not using BIM. Why aren't you? So I think actually there is a change occurring. And excellent, Paul, please come in.
Just, Guy mentioned the Embry conference last week, which was basically research establishments from across Europe got together. What was interesting, that in a lot of countries, the governments or EU funding were actually funding upskilling of the industry in BIM. And it's something that hasn't happened in the UK. And there hasn't been there isn't money to SMEs and other people to upskill themselves. And is that a trick that the UK government have missed in terms of helping to upskill the industry to help drive this whole agenda?
I think there are actually lots of pots of money out there to go and address this. I think sometimes that consistent agreed approach hasn't been taken, and some of that has been picked up for certain organisations' needs or certain parties' needs. But I'd point to the Offsite Management School in the way they're supporting upskilling from a knowledge management perspective and providing courses in conjunction with yourselves and others. That is funded and supported by CITB, Innovate UK. It can be a BIM course, it could be something else in relation to offsite. So I think there are pots of money there, the awareness that they exist and the resource to go and bring people together in the right space and attract that innovation money, whether that's Horizon 2020, Innovate UK, CITB, any other levy, is probably not happening, I think, Paul.
So we got one final comment. I'm conscious of time, but we had a good debate going here. One further question?
Matt Watchell, Ministry of Justice Family. This is probably for you, Alex. A couple of years ago, we had quite a healthy secondment and intern programme. It was successful, and we had very talented individual poached, and we had a secondment just coming to an end.
Am I going to get an offer to job? That's a very public way to do this.
It's really just practical tips.
Yep.
If I'm thinking about Home Office CPS, embarking on an apprenticeship programme again, is there any sort of practical tips you could just offer for me to think about and share around?
Yeah, look, I've been very new to this environment and that world, and still some of that kind of frustrates me when I get in a room and try and understand how trailblazer apprenticeships work. They are the next generation in this space. There are a whole host of people going out there creating these. They are all kind of advertised what's available. I think understanding how that fits into your structure and hierarchy. So the level 3 one we're creating is kind of a base platform from a technical perspective that gives you the opportunity to then pursue something in all sectors across the built environment. So I'd obviously endorse that, but we've been in touch with others around data security, Internet of Things, cyber, etc. These things are all out there, and I think if you try and pick a few and have a look at how you might create a learning profile across levels 1, 2, 3, all the way up to level 7, which is MSc level, then it could really help to kind of define where your organisation goes through practical on-the-ground experience as well as that academic support.
Thank you. Right, well, I think we really will have to stop now. Can we first of all just thank all of our speakers again?